Well, good morning. Are you about ready yet? Here it is. If this were commercial radio, um, which it's not, but if it were, this is about the time we would come on every day. And about 8 or 9 minutes after the top of the hour. Have you ever noticed that? Listen to your favorite radio show, stuff like that. You will find that there's about 8 to 9 minutes of commercial and news after the top of the hour before the show actually starts. Well, you didn't get any commercials or news, so I'll have to fill some of that in for you. And my lights are really bright this morning. So I didn't have any chance here to readjust them. I was upstairs. I was making coffee and doing dishes. I looked at the clock and I went, oh, I got to get downstairs. And I got down here and I think my computer had rebooted sometime in the night because I got in here and nothing was where I left it. So it was none of my saved the graphic for today's show. This right here, that was not saved anywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere on my computer. And so I just had to grab it offline because I had uploaded it last night. And I came in and I looked around on screen. Nothing was on, but the computer was on. So it must have rebooted itself at some point, or we had an energy flash or something in the middle of the night. So there we go. Yeah, Biden was in my system, says Roger Rabbit, snooping around. It's because you posted that picture. Boy, what do you think of Biden's reaction to that? I thought there was a side of him that was rather gracious, referring to him as Donald instead of Trump on a 2 or 3 different times. But he would not go as far as to call it an assassination attempt, because to do that, he must have been told, don't say it's an assassination attempt, because then you're saying that he's important and important to the country. So let me run a few things by you about this, and I want to get your thoughts on things. Let me put the invite link up here because, as you all know, this is not a formal show. This is Sunday morning, and you can all call in. You can comment. You can call in anytime you want, as a matter of fact, on this. And hold on, I got to see if this will adjust my lighting a bit. A little bit. It's just too bright. Hold on, it's too bright in my face. So let me turn this away the way it's supposed to be. More like that. And that's slightly better. No, it's no better now because now the computer light wants to brighten my face. I can't make any adjustments to this camera. This is one thing I want to be able to do with when I ask, hey, if you want to support this show, throw a few bucks in every now and then. I want to get a new camera. This one's built in, and the system does not allow you to adjust it. That's one of the things I'd like to do with this show. And if it's important, so far it's not important enough to dig too deep over here when things are tight in this economy. You know how that is. So, by the way, if you want to, and you're not already, hit the little join button down below the screen, and it'll show you 3 ways you could become a supporting member of this show. Everything from $1 a month, up to $15 a month. And it all depends on what you got extra to do. I understand everything is tight. Everybody's tight. If you don't have it, don't do it. But if you got it, do it. And if not, just and you like the show, share the show around. Let people know it's here. Let's build it up some more. And by the way, if you're in YouTube, hit the like button. I notice that we've got a lot of the same listeners every night for this show, and a lot of people, but we end up with one like. It's easy to overlook that because we just forget to do it. I forget to do it myself. So if you're in there watching, hit the like button. That helps us. And over on YouTube, yada, yada, yada. And if you want to be a big time supporter of this show, just go over to Patreon. my patreon.com/Scotty Roberts, and you will see that you can join for as little as $4 a month. Gets you all the shows. Well, you get him anyway. Hey, Chuck Hendrickson, good to see you. He just popped into the friend of mine, Chuck Hendrickson, popped into the show. Here he is, right here, Chuck Henderson. And so you get the show for free anyway. But if you want to support and can, go over to my Patreon. You can do anything you want over there, or hit the join button down below here, and that helps support this show. Otherwise, you're going to make me have to go out and get advertisers. So Steph is, ugh, I'm out to breakfast at the Lincoln Diner nursing a hangover. Wow, Steph, how'd you get a hangover? I had a good friend of mine, Heather Marie. You remember Heather from last summer? And a couple of times she came on the show. She put up a post last night. She was at the bar and she slammed a shot of something and she said, okay, whose house am I coming to tonight after the bar? So it's like, where am I going to end up tonight? That's not meant to sound as prurient as it sounds. So anyway, Steph, that was for you. Friggin' free fall on my nice fence last night, so I can't stay long. What the heck did you do, Chuck? A free fall on your fence? Call in. Give us a story for Sunday morning. So look, I've always got this little spot right here on my cheek, but something also bit me there yesterday, and this thing was all swelled up. My face was all red on that side. I didn't fall on a fence. Thank goodness, Chuck, you did not impale yourself on your wrought iron fence around your castle. So, and by the way, good morning in my cock cup, my big cock. There it is. Happy morning. Randall Flagg says, phantom figures free forever out of shadows, shining ever bright neon nights. Neon nights. What the hell is that from? Because I don't know off the top of my head. So let's see. So of course you all heard by now about this event right there. If you look at the graphic, Trump getting shot last night. The first thing I'll say, he got shot in the ear, and people go, "Oh, that isn't so bad." Well, you know what? If somebody's taken off your ear with a rifle from 1,500 yards away, I'm sorry, from 150 yards away, they weren't going for your ear. That was no sharpshooter saying, "I'll just shoot him in the ear." They were going for his head, and almost got it. And I don't know if he moved after it was pulled or the guy was just a bad shot. But I will tell you something. One thing is for sure, the shooter was no Navy SEAL. He was no United States Marine Corps. He was no sharpshooter of any kind. Steph says, I'm in Gettysburg for a bike rally and celebrating my birthday month. Hey, fantastic. You have a birthday month? I need to get one of those. Yeah, the memes have already started, says JP. I haven't seen any yet because I put this post up last night about midnight-ish and went to bed. So I haven't seen anything new this morning yet because I haven't gone looking. But I do know they've identified the shooter, who is dead, of course. And I do not know the name. I suppose I could look at the news while we're doing the show of the woman that was killed in the audience that was seated behind Trump. So the Antifa people probably thought, well, you missed the president, but you got one of his democracy killing followers. So, and here's the thing. Would you, not that I'm looking to blame a political party, but who has built up the rage against Donald Trump? being somebody who will destroy our country, someone who is killing democracy, and all the bad things here. Now, of course, Trump will come out and say Joe Biden is the worst president ever, and he's destroying our country. Yeah, we hear that all the time. But what has the left done? Because they have nothing to stand on of their own, they'll make brief mentions of these are our accomplishments, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're 30 seconds in. Now let's spend the rest of the time talking about how bad Trump is. That's all they've got, is to denigrate Trump. And they build lie upon lie, the felonies, all of this, the lawfare, everything. And you know why none of that is working very well? Because the American public have caught on to that a long time ago. Registered Republican, but shows a demonstrated a huge left-leaning. I support for left organizations, and a video stating he hates Republicans and Trump. I do have an article up here. Who was the 20-year-old who tried to kill Trump? And everything we know about the would-be assassin. Now, I don't think it was anybody like what's his name who shot Ronald Reagan. He was doing it to try to impress a movie star, which, if that movie star had been impressed, it's really, really ridiculous. But here's what they know so far. His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. Trump's attempted assassin. 20 years old, from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, and graduated from high school just 2 years ago. And the FBI identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old man from Western Pennsylvania, as the person who attempted to assassinate former President Trump. And at a campaign event yesterday in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, I said that the White House, Biden, in his expressing, I think there was some heartfelt stuff in there. He probably, he's probably like, oh, it's too bad they missed him by an inch and just got his ear. But, excuse me. Now, I'm not spreading misinformation on that. I'm just saying, you wonder if that's what they're really thinking. But he called him Donald. He seemed to have some sincere compassion in his words. And he said he's been trying to call him, and he's in with his doctors. And he said, as soon as I get a hold of him, I'll update. This was Biden speaking. And then a reporter asked him about it being an assassination attempt. And he was like, he fumbled on that just a little bit and was like, let's see what the investigation says about it first, whether or not it was an assassination attempt. What did he think it was? Deer hunters out in the field that didn't know a rally was going on and shot in that direction? Of course it was an assassination attempt. And that's what the FBI is calling it. The Secret Service is calling it. And so now the left is going to have to deal with that little tidbit of information. But one thing they did do, they shut down all campaign events. They shut down all campaign ads yesterday, at least temporarily, denigrating Trump. And so that's admirable. But the Crooks was reportedly, he shot Trump from a rooftop perch some 130 yards away. That's just a little more than a football field away. During a rally in the small town, he struck the upper part of Trump's right ear while the former president was speaking to rally goers ahead of next week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. One attendee was killed and 2 others were injured during the incident. 8 shots, I heard that he got off. And he's either a really bad shot at 150 yards. But the big question is, how did he get there? Did the Secret Service and the police not clear that area? Or wasn't there a fellow who came out? There was. I saw a video of it. A guy who came out and said, we were alerting the police. We're seeing a guy crawling up on the roof of this building over here with a rifle on his back. and he's crawling across the top of the roof. And he says the police weren't doing anything. So, what the hell was that about, folks? So the FBI identified him as the subject involved in the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, said the FBI statement. And this remains an active and ongoing investigation. And Crooks was from Bethel Park. And there's one guy here who's got blood all over, an old guy in a MAGA hat and a white T-shirt that says USA. There's a picture of him here in this news story. What's it say? People who attended former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler described to the news the chaos that ensued following an attempted assassination. It doesn't identify who this guy is, but he's got blood soaked all over his. It's not bright red. It's like washed out red up on this collar and across his. I don't know if he was next to the person who got shot in the audience. Let's see. Crooks was a registered Republican, according to voting records, but he only participated in the November 8th, 2022 state election due to his age. Records show that he made a $15 donation to Progressive Turnout Project, a Chicago-based political action committee that supports Democrat candidates for public office and claims to advocate for key Democratic constituencies, young people, minorities, low-income people. And the FBI said it'll continue its investigation into Crooks and any other information it can obtain. This remains an active and ongoing investigation. Anyone with information that may assist with the investigation is encouraged to submit photos or videos online at fbi.gov/Butler or call their 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's what the statement said. 27 blonde girls ranked from worst to best. Can't argue with number one. Oh, that's the next article. I always wondered about these fantastic news pieces, and then these kinds of ads that come up on these websites is crazy. So that's what they know about the shooter, at least as of last night. And that guy, what does Roger say? Oh, let's see. It was all on a farm. It was able to be secured. Yeah, they dropped the ball on purpose, says Susie Q. What do you think of that, guys? Is Susie Q putting out a conspiracy theory or a conspiracy fact? What do you think? Because the guy who said they were trying to alert police that the guy was up on the roof, the police were like, yeah, whatever. We're helping with crowd control. He says they weren't doing anything about it. Roger says that guy was ERDR. That happened to be in the crowd. He tried to save the lady. Oh, who was shot in the head in the crowd? Gotcha. The guy with the blood on his shirt. Okay. He's not going to have the same volume of Secret Service coverage that an actively serving POTUS has. So coverage capability is going to be different. That's very true. Every former president has Secret Service. It's not the same as the acting president. And did you know that there was a movement in Congress? Maybe that's why they're full of shit. But a movement in Congress not very long ago, a month or two ago, 3 months ago, to try to take away Donald Trump's Secret Service protection because of the felony conviction, or not convictions. It was before the conviction, but because of his indictments. That's an interesting point, too. Let's see. Legislation. My new keyboard. It's hard to unpack on this. Legislation to take away Trump's. I want to see who sponsored this. Secret Service protection. Wow. Let's see. The disgraced former Protectees Act would terminate Secret Service protection for individuals who otherwise qualify for it upon sentencing following a conviction for a federal or a state felony. Let's see, what's this say? This is Trump Secret Service protection could be removed under Benny Thompson proposed legislation. So Benny Thompson, Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson from Mississippi, the ranking member of the Committee on Homeland Security, introduced legislation that would remove Secret Service protection from anyone convicted of a felony and sentenced to prison. How the jury found Trump guilty is a side article they had. But according to a news release, this is, by the way, the Clarion Ledger, eu.clarionledger.com. And according to this news release, and this was dated on, no date. This is part of USA Today, I think, because it's got USA Today in the link, or in their menu. According to the news release, the Denying Infinite Security, the DIS, the Denying Infinite Security and Government Resources Allocated Toward Convicted and Extremely Dishonorable Former Protectees Act, or of the Disgraced Former Protectees Act, H.R. 8081, would reform the U.S. Secret Service Protection Mission by automatically terminating Secret Service protection for those who have been sentenced to prison following conviction for a federal or a state felony. I remember when I first heard this is when they were saying, well, if Trump gets sent to prison for this, even a short term at Rikers, they would have to do something special because of the Secret Service accommodations that he would need. And they're saying that this is clarifying that prison authorities would be responsible for the protection of all inmates regardless of previous Secret Service protection. Unfortunately, current law doesn't anticipate how Secret Service protection would impact the felony prison sentence of a protectee, even a former president. It is regrettable that it's come to this, but this previous unthought of scenario could become our reality. Therefore, it is necessary for us to be prepared and update the laws so the American people can be assured that protective service status does not translate into special treatment, and that those who are sentenced to prison will indeed serve the time required of them. That's what the news release said. And then it goes into Secret Service history and so on. What would this bill do? It would remove the potential for conflicting lines of authority within prisons and allow judges to weigh the sentencing of individuals without having to factor in the logistical concerns of convicts with Secret Service protection. Will this apply to Trump's Secret Service protection? It asks. This measure would apply to former President Trump and any Secret Service protectees convicted and sentenced under felony charges. Right now, he's got 34 felony charges and convictions. And this legislation is co-sponsored by Representatives Troy A. Carter Sr., Barbara Lee, Frederica Wilson, Yvette Clark, Bonnie Watson Coleman, Jasmine Crockett, Joyce Beatty, and Steve Cohen, all of them Democrats. I know, no surprise there. So, and by the way, Steph, what day is your birthday? If it is, I see Professor Bauer saying happy Orbit Month. Professor's celebrating his tomorrow with steak and beer in honor of Trump's survival and successful re-election. So good morning, NB. Good to see you as well. Thanks for coming in. So everybody, what do you think of that? Do you think because Trump was convicted, do you think a convicted former president should lose Secret Service? Do you think it should happen if he's convicted, or should it happen after the whole appellate process and he's found really guilty? Not just guilty, really guilty, because it's denied or turned down in all of the whole appellate process. Would it have to be a Supreme Court ruling? And, of course, you got Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, just made an impeachment proposal to, I don't know what's it called, a proposal to the House 2 days ago, wanting to impeach Justice Thomas and Justice Alito. Why? because they are conservative and they ruled conservative. You're supposed to rule without any kind of prejudice in either direction, she said. Well, what about those who were liberals and voted against it on the Supreme Court? The three who voted against some of these things. Should they be impeached as well because they went with their liberal predilections? AOC, I got news for you, AOC. Just because the ruling doesn't go the way you want it to go and you don't like it, doesn't mean a justice needs to be impeached. Perhaps you should be impeached. You're as dumb as a rock, and you keep proving it. Susie Q says, sorry, I'm so serious. Why so serious, Susie Q? She said, I forgot to say happy birthday. Get my priorities straight. Steph, let me say, from the very bottom, middle, and top of my heart, and all other parts of my anatomy, happy birthday. I wish you the best. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Steph Cuervo Queen. Happy birthday to you. And all that comes with that. And I think that I mean exactly what I was going to say about that. Those words mean exactly what I mean them to mean. So happy birthday, Steph Cuervo Queen. So Susie Q is livid over Trump. You should call in, Susie Q. Call in and let us all hear your voice. Robert Bannon is here. Robert says, I think if he lost Secret Service, he'd become a target again. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. Love you right back, Steph. So who would like to be the first to call in this morning? Remember, this show on Sundays is an informal show. It's a show that kind of relies on you guys participating. What do you want me to? Are you not entertained? Am I here just to entertain you? Or are you here to join me and entertain everybody yourself too? That's what this show's about. Daniel Ondra, good to see you. Welcome to the program. Let me do the rundown here. Sarah Youssef, good to see you. Steph Cuervo Queen, of course, and Susie Q. And NB is here. And let's see. I don't know if you want me to say your name or not. I think I have in the past. I'll leave that up to you. Professor Bauer is here. And Rendell Flagg is here. All charges should be dropped at this point. Yeah, I agree. I know Jack Smith, who is the big case that they're trying to get Trump on the documents case. And the January 6th and all of that tied into it. He just appealed to the judge in that case to ignore the SCOTUS ruling on presidential immunity. Who is it? Eileen Cannon? Is that the judge in that case? He has made an appeal. I just read this. It just happened just the other day. He made an appeal for her to ignore the Supreme Court ruling on immunity for the president. That's like, Jack Smith, are you dumb? You know, some of these people, you look at them and you go, I could do that job. I'm smarter than you. God, there are some people, you know, they're trying everything they can. That looked to me to be one of those pathetic appeals to say, well, I'm going to lose my case if you don't do this. So I need you to do what's going to help me win my case. Even ignore the Supreme Court because Ocasio-Cortez put in an impeachment bid for two of them. It's like, fuck off, Jack Smith. It was never a case, never should have been a case to begin with. And so it'll be interesting to see now what happens with Judge, what's his name? Not Mercer, Merchan. in New York over this other trial. What's that sentencing going to be like now? Because it got put off till after indefinitely. I don't think there's even a date set anymore for it. JP, welcome to the program. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Fantastic.
There's a sneeze brewing, and I don't like that feeling because I know it's not going to happen. And then all your nasal tissue just it's like it's the burn goes through there because you did not sneeze. And then you're sniffly anyway. So, Rashad, yes, thank you, Sarah Yusuf. Yeah, Jack Smith's appointment has even been challenged. His ability to have made this a case at all has been challenged. What are your thoughts this morning on everything, JP?
On everything.
Just going to get your window.
Well, just going to get the window for right now.
I'm not presentable. I don't have
basically. That's
my hair's not done.
My hair is not done. How did you know?
How did you know? I can read between the lines. My hair wasn't done this morning either. I was standing at the sink getting my coffee. Looking at the clock and go, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I have got to get down there. And I hadn't even looked in the mirror yet this morning. I just took water from the sink where I was washing dishes and splashed it over my hair. And there we go. I am ready.
Yeah, I have done that quite frequently. I have done that prior to coming on.
Or explanation. I am not a stinky, smelly person. I bathe with regularity, even if I don't need it. I'll bathe with regularity. Shower at least once every couple of weeks, and I will make sure my hair looks good every day, as what's left of it, and as good as I can. Let's put it that way. And it's either I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to shave it all off and just polish my noggin, or and then grow a big Zeus beard or something to compensate. Oh, look at his long beard. He's compensating for something. Yeah, the loss of hair on the top of my head. Why do we as males, our hoary head, our full mane gives us power? Yep, that's the first thing to go as you start hitting middle age. It goes away, and then it migrates south. You get big beards, you get bushy earlobes, your nostrils start sprouting more hair. It's like, what the hell? Your eyebrows get long and fluttery in the air conditioning breeze.
I would argue that is not the case in everyone's case.
I'm sure. It's genetics, I'm sure. Yeah, we should do ZZ Top. Bo Derek, says Susie Q. What about Bo Derek?
Right.
How you doing, Bo Derek? Even at 70, she's all right.
Yeah. To go back to things, I guess I'll work my way backwards. A lot of this stuff that you hear from these people is political grandstanding.
Yes.
It's a show. It's, hey, look, my constituency. I am the person you voted to send into office.
Right. I'm doing my job for you.
Exactly. Continue to support me. All of that stuff. Right. And that's all well and good. I do, however, well, like everybody else, get really tired of it. There comes a point where we need to stop doing that, and we need to start executing the job of office.
Yeah,
get to the business of the country, not the political grandstanding. It's, come on, guys, come off it.
Right.
Public service is exactly that. It's a service. It's not a career. I mean, these guys clearly make it a career, but as far as the other stuff regarding Trump and getting shot and things like that,
mm-hmm.
I know people who were. I recently talked with people last night, like my neighbors and stuff, who were like really, really emotionally impacted by this in terms of just anger and frustration. And it's like, for me, somebody sent me the video clip. I queued it up. I watched it, and I was like, okay, well, he touched the side of his face, and then he willfully got down before the Secret Service could get in there and bowl him over like a
You knew what to
play
do.
on a football field. I see that, and it's like, okay, he's okay. I'm not worried about this anymore. I'm worried about what the second and third order effects are going to be.
Yes.
What comes after? And I think that's one of those things that most people need to be concerned about in general, because you're going to see, or there is at least a statistical probability, if you will, of seeing a lot of rhetoric start coming out.
Yes.
Not just from the Dems, but from the Republicans too. There's going to be a whole sea of that stuff. But then it's what is that going to do? You always have the people who get emboldened by things. And so it's like, okay, where else are we going to go with this? What else is this going to inspire, so to speak?
Yes.
So that's where I kind of have concerns. I'm also kind of a school of thought of, you guys really didn't want him in office, but man, you just served that position up to him on a platter.
Yeah.
It's like there's going to be the sympathy card. There's going to be, the things that sway people, because it's like, okay, clearly things are getting too wacko on our side.
I once again saw more people saying over the last 12 hours that, well, I was on the borderline on the fence for Trump. I didn't know which way I was going to go. I'm firmly voting Trump now.
Right.
I mean, this is viewed as what did that do to you when you first heard the news? I remember we went to pick up Rowan at the airport. She went to stay with her sisters for the week out in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Went and picked her up yesterday, and we stopped at the store where Raini works, because all the kids wanted to say hi to one of the older guys that works there.
Yeah.
I say older guys. He's my age. Blink, blink. But they wanted to say hi to him. Hi to Q. Q is his, what they call him. And he said, "Did you just hear? He said, 20 minutes ago, Trump was shot." And I said, "No, I didn't have the radio on in the car." And that changed my whole mood about I need to find out what's going on. And we all looked it up on our phones right there and found out what happened. But so what were you doing, and what did you think when you first heard the news, JP?
Well, I was sitting on the couch with my youngest watching Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Yes.
And enjoying a little bit of the post-apocalyptic sci-fi, what have you. Which in a way is somehow oddly appropriate, right?
Yes. Yes.
And a buddy of mine sent me a link. It's like, dude, well, actually, no, it was Sarah. Sarah said something. She was like, "Hey, Trump just got shot." I'm like, "The fuck?"
Yeah.
And
she
so
sent me a message too.
Say again.
She sent me a message too. I love that about Sarah. It shows where her first sentiments lie, with you and me and this show.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Thank you, Sarah, by the way.
And so, the first thing I did was pull up the link, and first thing I did after that was pause the movie, so you could hear what was going on. And then, me and my youngest leaned in, and we're sitting there watching it, and it's like, dude, okay, this is kind of crazy, but immediately the pundits started, which always bugs the ever-loving crap out of me too. The talking heads and the idiots on the news, start immediately going in with all the speculation. That creates problems in of its own, because it gets people to stop waiting for the evidence and start developing their own opinions and thoughts, and additional speculations on top of that, which then feed into the internet, which then feeds into the general overall lunacy. So, yeah,
Yep.
I was surprised upon hearing it, kind of shocked, and then it was like, okay, let's wait for the information. That was kind of my response
Let's
to
wait
it.
and find out what's going on.
Right, because nobody knows nothing until all the reports are out. Anything beyond that's speculation and just contributes to the fog of war.
Yes.
So yeah, I what's funny is that I've had the conversation last night with my neighbor, and I was like, watch, this guy's going to come out as some hardline Dem, because if you look at all the mass shootings, if you look at all that stuff, the majority of them, not all of them, for anybody on there who wants to throw shade, not all of them, but a large number, potentially a majority of them, have all been left-leaning, along with mentally, having mental health issues. So like, I was like, I'm not going to be surprised at all. This comes out that this dude was a hard-leaning left. And then you see the Republican registration, which he registered in 2021, I think it was.
Something like that. 22.
Yeah.
He voted in 2022.
Yeah, in a local election. But God bless the internet and God curse the internet. What a wonderful double-edged sword that beast is. Because like immediately, as soon as a name for the dude was out, people were like looking everything they could up, digging into stuff. People found his Facebook profile, Instagram stuff or whatever, and Twitter. And it's like people were digging up records online. And it's like, oh, everything this dude follows is a left-leaning thing. Everything that, did you see the video that he made?
No, I did not see the video.
Yeah, there's already a video. It came out on
his manifesto again.
No, it wasn't a manifesto. It was a TikTok clip. He's sitting in his car and he's like, I'm Thomas Matthew so-and-so, and I hate Republicans. I hate Trump. And then he leans into the camera and says, "You got the wrong guy." And it's like, obviously there's context missing.
You got the wrong guy. Do they know what that meant?
No.
You got the wrong guy leading the Republican in Trump, or you got the wrong guy what?
Right. There's no context with it.
No context. But
you at least have the preceding statements that basically verify my assumption. And it's never proper to assume, but sometimes you look at things and it's like, statistically speaking, it's more likely than not. And
right.
So this is going to be interesting. Did I hear you say something about like the DNC people had stopped for at least for the rest of the day yesterday or something?
Yeah, that's what they had said yesterday.
Well, that's mighty big of them to do.
Yeah, it is.
For one. The other thing too is I kind of wonder if they're having oh shit. We had a hand in this because of everything we've been pushing, everything we've been fueling, how we've been saying it. Maybe we didn't think it would get this far. We just figured people wouldn't vote for the dude. And so I wonder if there's a certain level of that to them.
Yeah, probably a little bit of hanging their head in shame. But when they can,
I don't even think it's a shame. I think it's more just like in panic, worried about culpability. But
yeah, but when you've got the party that can continue running an old man who obviously shouldn't be running, but they will use him because they think he can win for them, that is a party that doesn't care about the personal side. They push that all aside and say, well, yeah, we got to look at the business of what we're doing here. The business is we need to have Biden here because he's the only one who can beat Trump. I think they're starting to worry about that. And now probably even more since yesterday. We're a little over 3 months from the election.
Right.
3 months and 2 weeks. And
there's some, I think they're seeing some serious repercussions of how they have run their program.
Yeah.
And what I'm hoping is that, I'm hoping a few things. One, I'm hoping that there aren't any further attempts and this doesn't create a series of, emboldened copycat type crap that always happens with the weirdos and the extremists. But I am really hoping, and I know I am probably naive in my, or not naive, but it would have a smack of naivety to sit here and hope that maybe these jabronis are going to figure out that, you know what, we really have been doing things the wrong way, and we really have created half the problems we have, and we need we need to stop doing things this way because we're going to create a real problem that we're not going to be able to undo.
But see, here's the thing. They won't do that. It's the same reason.
I don't think they'll do it publicly.
Not come out and say that Biden needed to be replaced. At least they started to now because everybody caught on and they had to. Maybe he does need to go. It's like, oh, this just dawned on you, dumbasses, 2 weeks ago, or since the debate.
Right?
Were they not looking all the way along? No, they have been purposely misleading the American public in order to retain the seat of power. And do you think that they're not going to do the same thing after this? Well, I think the problem they're facing is that unless they just come clean and say, we need to sweep the Democratic Party and do something better, the public is going to look at them overall, except your diehards. The public is going to look at them overall and say, sorry, you are not it. So.
Yep, pretty much. I'm not expecting any sort of, public kind of, you know what, we've been doing things the wrong way, and we're trying to fix this and trying to do better. There's not going to be any sort of thing like that because very, very rarely do you see that out of any kind of politician or political organization. When's the last time we saw that? Friggin' George Bush. When he's like, I know I said no new taxes, but if you guys want this, we have to do this, and I'm sorry. And his level of integrity cost him the election. So
hey, Sarah, keep making your point, Jason.
Sarah.
Oh yeah. Oh, so it was in another window.
You said the other side will look at the other and say the same thing.
Yeah.
The real problem is still unaddressed, you said, in terms of finding a proper and healthy outlet of their frustration. How do you mean?
Well, people are acting like this is such a surprise, which, it really isn't, even JP can say historically, in terms of the assassination attempts, you had JFK, you had attempts on Ronald Reagan's life, you had, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So given the polarization and our previous history of when people get frustrated to a certain point, it will lead to violence. And we are, on the tip or, at the hanging on those last threads, as it were, before that breaks out. Right. So until, and both sides are guilty of doing it, of trying to incite each other and trying to,
oh yeah. Both sides are definitely
incite their base and, through fear mongering or.
But a lot of it is meant to be political rhetoric. It's not meant to incite action. I don't think that Biden thought that by saying what he said, if he had any thought about it at all, was trying to incite violence against Donald Trump, the man. I don't think he was attempting to do that.
One can only hope.
Right,
Yeah,
but
one
then
would
you're
hope.
going to have every single, every person is going to have their views, and then whatever evidence comes out, whether they're going to take that evidence in and accept it, or if it doesn't align with their views, they'll just throw it away and say, it's a lie, because we can't trust the media, we can't trust what's coming out of most people's mouths, and we're left to rely on our thinking, and then we have our own ways of spiraling out. Is somebody going to say, "Oh, this is a attempt by Biden to get rid of Trump," or is it Antifa, or is it some other political motivated politically motivated move? Is this someone who is just incited by Trump's actions and rhetoric, and the shooter himself was 20 years old. It's a 20-year-old. That's practically a kid, not even
he is a kid. 20 years old is a kid.
Well, but you know what? I'm gonna here's what I'm gonna I do want to interject something on the 20 years old is a kid. I understand that society changes and things like that, but that kid's old enough to go to war.
Yes,
that makes him a man.
To get a legal drink.
Right. Age-old thing, but the where we determine childhood is interesting. Him at 20 years old, 200 years ago was basically in middle age.
Well, I did.
Well, I mean, the lifespans were a lot shorter.
I looked this up. Do you know how old Napoleon was when he was the general of all the French armies?
15.
He was 23. 23 years old when he was the supreme general of all the French armies. 23 years old. So times have changed us, yes. Susie Q says, bullshit, he's not a kid. I just meant in America by physical numbers, he's still a kid.
Terms of,
I look at a 23-year-old and I refer to 23-year-olds as kids.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, in terms of age itself, it's not the number itself; it's the amount of mental maturity.
Yes,
so,
that is a factor. If you're going to pick up a gun and try to shoot a former president, is that maturity? Is that a mature decision? Is it one where he truly, strongly believed in his personal ideology so hard that I have to pick up a gun and stop this guy, and it doesn't matter how history will write me. Even if I lose my life, I have to do this because he needs to be stopped. If he earnestly believed that, what do we think of him then? Does that make him an adult or a kid or an immature thought process? I look at, like you said, his video and the things that we know about him already. A registered Republican who is part of a leftist progressive action group.
Well, and that's the other thing with stuff like that is that people have been joining, registering under a party and then actively going in, and especially in primaries, and voting against that party or that head person in the primary to weaken them so that the person they would actually vote for has a better chance. So, I mean, I think a lot of it's speculation and rhetoric at this point.
It's an indication of sociopathy. He's a psychopath.
Yeah, there's that too.
Not even a psychopath, sociopath. Someone who's not maladjusted to what you would say, quote unquote, the norm type of thinking.
Well, but there's all, that's one of those things, and here's not to be a pain in the butt.
Be a pain in the butt.
But being a pain in the butt here. The simple fact of the matter is if you want to go by that rhetoric, we have to be careful with using that sort of stuff, Sarah, because if we're going to do that, then our entire existence as a nation was started by psychopaths.
Right.
Well, sociopaths, but I wouldn't say psychopaths.
Well, okay, yeah, sociopaths, right? I mean, that's the thing is where's the line, and then what's the context?
You're pretty much. So Thomas Jefferson was in his 30s, but early 30s. But all these guys were in their mid to late 20s. These sons of liberty.
Yeah, but you have to consider the time and the culture.
No, and that's very true. That's very true.
Well,
but at the same time,
it was only 30 years later that Napoleon was leading the French armies at 23. So
right, and at the same time, you know, the Boston Tea Party, everybody who participated in that paid up for the damages of one broken lock, and they cleaned up the vessel. So you know, contextual clues to things are where we need to start looking at. With
they swept the deck. That's what was so interesting. And all
right, guys, we're going to sweep the deck.
Millions of dollars in product, but they did sweep the deck.
Right, so, and they replaced the broken lock that they broke.
Yes.
And they were ordered. You know, hey, you're not going to take anybody's crap. Don't go rifling through their stuff. And anybody who tried to was quickly curtailed by, you know, leadership present.
Yep.
So that's where context. It's and the real thing I'm trying to stress with that is not to argue against your point, Sarah, but it's more of let's make sure that we pay attention to context. Let's make sure we look at the whole picture. Is really where I'm going with that line of commenting.
Well, I mean that's not against what I'm saying. So, But yeah, so I mean, we have to look at it with the current context of now, because what I'm seeing is, and it's been, you know, more than, you know, the Trump presidency, Biden presidency, even before, it feels like the pot is boiling over in terms of, you know, neglect of mental health.
Well, there's that, and plus what's being fed by the media. Like
it's feeding into it.
It's absolutely feeding into it. And I'll tell you what. So I was sitting in the airport at Charlotte until we got off the ground at midnight. But while I was sitting in there, I had a Peruvian woman come down and sit next to me, and in the terminal, right? And then she started, you know, she asked some stuff about where we were supposed to go because she was confused about some things.
So she could get her green card.
No, she was, I think, visiting her kid, but who's up in New York is what she said. But it was one of these things where, like, everything she tried to throw at me, while there was some truth to it, yes, America does have an obesity problem. Yes, our healthcare system can be very wonky. Yes, people do get shot. But I said, if you listen to the points and how you're saying everything, you need to stop watching the news and you need to go find hard data. And go live amongst the country for a while. Not everybody's running around with an automatic weapon gangbanging.
Let me just interject a statement here. Folks, if you are trying to make a casual political point, the worst person to casually run into would be Jason in the airport. Oh, don't you
the amount of biting my tongue when I have to do.
Yes.
The amount of biting my tongue that I have to do when I hear conversations around me. The level of self-discipline is monumental. It's like the level of power of Greek gods that I have to exert to not say something and just stay out of it, Jason. Just stay out of it.
I hear that.
You know, but that's the thing is, it's every point that she brought up was something that was like a huge and skewed talking point.
Yeah.
On media, and I was like, you really got to look at something different.
Impression of America, man. And of course, before that, you're doing what you just said. Lips do not unpurse.
Yeah. And and so it.
Keep talking. I'm going to go grab something to add to my coffee cup.
It is something. It is something that has become so pervasive. You know, in not only local stuff but internationally. You know, it's like, guys, stop watching the news. It's just going to make the problem worse.
Every culture has their thing, and also, you know, when you look at, you know, the history of political control, and where we're in areas where you see like coups happen, control of the media is a big thing, you know, which is why, you know, believe it or not, double-edged sword that it is, social media is both, you know, it's a dagger, but it's also a shield, because
so, and you have to wield it responsibly.
Right.
That's, you know, that's one of the big things. I mean, you have to be responsible about how you use the tools that you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it can be applied to so many things.
Mhm.
But I tell you what, I'm going to have to back on out of the discussion. The mini-me and I are heading to go grab breakfast at a local diner.
All right.
I will be listening. I will be commenting per usual. But everybody, have a great day.
You too, Jason. Thanks
Try
for
not
coming
to
on,
freak
brother.
out about stuff. Oh, it's always a pleasure. And
Freaked out. I thought it was. I hope I don't come across as freaked out.
Right.
Because I'm not. But there are people who are in both.
There are
directions.
people who are, and you know, and I'm not saying that they don't have a right to, but you gotta wait until you have the bigger picture before really
Right.
starting to respond. No knee-jerk reactions.
It was interesting. A very
Yeah.
a friend of mine that I know in the paranormal field, and you'd know him. He just said on my post about this last night, just showing the picture of Trump with his fist in the air.
Yeah.
And I think all my posts said, "What a fucking beast! I'm more Trump 2024 than ever."
Yep.
And he said something like, "Well, the shooter is a registered Republican." And this
Well, that was
friend of
the
mine,
first thing that came out, right? But none of the
Yep,
other
that's
the other
the first
contextual
thing.
information.
Exactly.
Is he? I
And-
didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
see that in the
Yeah,
news.
he's a registered Republican. He registered back in 21.
Wow.
And I answered him as did
But
a
everyone he follows on social media is super left-leaning. They're all left politicians. There's like people have been digging through this guy's profile
So he
and posting
basically
stuff.
is trying to get incel. You know, he's trying to get
Right.
in, see what's going.
somebody just said Ron Mon is his name on my Facebook. I know him in the paranormal world, but he's a very big conservative pundit. And he said, amazing. Watching the bloodlust in some people today makes me understand how Marxists like Mao, Stalin, Hitler, and Mussolini got people to commit murder and do hate.
Oh yeah. And you know that reminds me. Last bit here before I back out. To that point, have you seen the three body problem? Or
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it's the name of a show, but like they have in the first episode, and kind of flashing back to to the point in other episodes, they show the great cultural revolution and all of the stuff, and they show the execution, like literally just beating on stage and in public of professors and intellectuals and things like that. And the Chinese government went apeshit about it. So you talk to that point, it's like, you get enough rhetoric going, there's some people out there, and then mob rule takes over.
Yes.
And that's what gets scary. So anyways, everybody have a good one. I will catch up with y'all later.
See you, man. Have a good day.
Right.
See you,
Take
Jake.
care.
You know, Sarah,
Bye, Sarah.
I did see that, and I actually responded to my friend who said that about him being a registered Republican. And, it was like, you obviously haven't been keeping up along the way here, because I put in there that the FBI has identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. What did they say? What else did they say about him here? That not only was he a registered Republican, let's see, where was it here?
Did it say anything about his parents?
Not yet. It says Crook was a registered Republican according to voting records, but he only participated in the November 8th, 2022 state election due to his age. Records show that he made a $15 donation to Progressive Turnout Project, a Chicago-based political action committee that supports Democrat candidates for public office and claims to advocate for key Democratic constituencies, young people, minorities, and low-income people. So that's where, even though he was a registered Republican, I will bet you, my guess, this is not fact, my guess is that he was raised in a conservative or Republican household, so he becomes a registered. And as most kids do, he goes, hey, I like this better over here. He could be registered as that, but where he's putting his money and his effort is They have a video that was on his social media, not about doing a shooting, wanting to do a shooting, but a video where he said he hated Republicans and hated Donald Trump. And it was lacking context, though,
Right.
because he said, JP told us, he said something about not you can't blame me or don't hold it against me or
Right.
something, but we didn't know what he was talking about.
I
So
think
it's interesting.
his parents are probably Democratic, but considering that he registered Republican and 2-3 years
Maybe
ago,
that was his rebellion. Yeah.
this is something that's been festering for a long, long, long time. Then it's the slow build, the slow build of frustration. And then it just erupted in this manner.
Right.
What's the answer to that? Are they going to force Republicans now to take an oath to stay Republican and have to test them on their Republican values?
Why not? Who cares? Who cares? If it's not mandated, it's not a law, you can ask anybody to, so are you going to stand with me? Raise your right hand. I don't care. Biden could do that. Biden's asking people to be loyal to him. That's what politicians do. You got Maxine Waters asking people to do everything they can to denigrate Trump supporters in public, even to the point of committing violence. But she's not brought up on incitement charges. You got Schumer, who went out and said that the Supreme Court will reap the whirlwind and make sure that you make them reap the whirlwind. Some could interpret that as inciting violence, but he's not held up on that. These were all the things that came out when, they're trying to charge Trump with inciting rebellion. No, he's not. He's using the same kind of rhetoric every other politician uses. We're going to fight for you. We're going to do this. Be peaceful, though. Though I haven't seen Schumer or Maxine Waters tell their followers to do it peaceably.
Well, regardless, both campaigns are going to have to step up on their security measures. Even for Biden now, because if people who, like JP was saying, think a certain way, then they're going to see it as an attack on them, and then they may try to attack Biden. Right. So, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame that we've reached that point. But the question is now, how are we going to, dial the stove back down? What needs to happen? Because until, even if we have the election in November, one side's not going to be happy about it because if somebody's going to win, the other side's not going to be happy about it. So, regardless, but we have to find, a different outlet for people to not only express themselves but feel like they're heard. Even though it's one voice or a loud voice, people have the right to feel like their opinions can be heard, which is, what social media is supposed to help alleviate that. But is it enough? Where are these? Where's our sense of community? It's become a culture, it's us versus them. Based on political views or
this whole thing about inciting. This article just popped up in front of me as you were saying that. A CNN host scolded Trump for saying "fight" in an immediate aftermath of the assassination attempt, and so the CNN host is saying. Well, Trump saying "fight," that's going to incite more of his J6 type of rhetoric. But isn't this all that everybody else is? We're going to fight for you. Keep fighting. So what Trump did, he stuck up his fist and he said, keep fighting. Fight. He's not saying pull out your guns and start shooting Democrats. He's saying keep fighting. And
well, and the thing with saying, keep fighting, you fight when you're in a war. So he's acting like he's in a war.
Or he's saying fight, like I do at a football game. They tackled him and they busted his knee. Fight, keep fighting. yeah, this is a political thing and it's much more serious. He got shot, but it's the same type of rhetoric. It's like, don't let this keep you from fighting for what you need to do. He wasn't inciting violence, but the CNN guy, of course, is trying to make that connection.
Well, I mean, the media is going to have its own spin, but this goes beyond politics, Scotty, because this is somebody's life. You may not agree with this politics, or this is a human life. So if both, Democrats and Republicans can't even agree on the basics of human life, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, whatever was cited in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, that means that the system is completely broken down. Unless they can come together on at least that much of an issue, they are never going to come together and find bipartisanship.
Very true. This CNN reporter said, I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down. But here's the thing. How much time did Trump have to plan before getting up from almost having his head shot into bits and raising his fist and saying, fight, keep fighting? You didn't have a whole lot of time to put that into context as the Secret Service are dragging him off stage, bleeding. And I'm going to say it again. Somebody who shot him in the ear, they weren't aiming for his ear. He was lucky it wasn't a half of an inch further to the right.
Yeah, 3 inches, and he would have been would have been gone.
So the criticism from CNN is
no. I mean, this is going to be what we're going to be talking on at least for the next week. News cycle.
Yeah, sure. It's the news. It's the new news cycle. It's going to existential threat. Former DOJ chief says Democrats had a hand in spurring Trump's shooting. Well, what do you think of that? That was Bill Barr said that.
I'm not surprised that they're already pointing fingers. I mean,
they're calling on these people, wanting to get their input. All these news services, and former Attorney General William Barr told Fox News that the Democrats have to stop their grossly irresponsible talk about Trump being an existential threat to democracy, because he's not. He is the epitome of democracy. And the statement came just hours after the assassination attempt. Republicans lost no time tying the attack to rhetoric from the Republicans lost no time tying the attack to rhetoric from Democrats, accusing Trump of being authoritarian, a dictator, or anti-democracy, or an existential threat to the world. And J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, Republican in Ohio, he's a contender for Trump's running mate. After the attack, posted on X, today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Now, that's not untrue. That's not lacking in fact. So how do you unload a statement like that? How would you unpack that statement, Sarah?
Well, I mean, there's two things. One is that, yes, the media is jumping on other people to get their opinions on anything, but the truth is nobody has data yet to make an opinion. So they're going to go off of, the usual playbook of blame the Democrats, blame this, blame that, until they know, from the investigation, which, of course, is going to take time. It's going to take a day or two to go and sift through that. You have the Secret Service working on it. You have all that stuff. So, I mean, right now, it would be useless to ask anyone's opinion about it because nobody's going to know. And then whatever they don't know, they're going to rely on what they do know, which is, basically the playbook that was good that they've learned, for their party. So,
another comment that was made, President Biden came under scrutiny after the shooting for remarks he made to donors on July 8th, just about a week ago, in which he said, it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. See, that's the kind of rhetoric we have to be careful of on both sides.
Yeah, so, it's like the same thing when people got all in a fuss during the Trump's debate with Hillary of telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by.
Yes.
It's the same thing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a matter of Trump being, the end all of democracy and all that stuff. I mean, yes, he's inciting a type of change. Whether that change is positive or negative remains to be seen, and it's up to people to decide. But
right.
This is part of the political it's part of the political process. Either way. I mean, we're in a speeding train having to choose a direction. We're coming to a fork in the road, and we have to decide what the path we're going to take forward as a country, and on how we're going to go from the future. And even if Trump wins, it's 4 more years. And if he's going to honor the Constitution, what was written in the Constitution, and not have any political chicanery while he's in office, he's done after 4 more years.
I don't think we have any evidence of there having ever been political chicanery from him. All these people that claim he wants to be a dictator and all of this, forget he was already in office for 4 years and none of that happened. He stepped down. He contested it vociferously and vehemently. He still stepped down. And there was a transfer of power. I heard him say in a speech not long ago, and he was being funny in his dry humor kind of way. He said, he says, of course, he was saying he didn't believe he lost the last election, is the current ongoing, the big lie, he calls it. But he said, if I'd won the last election, he says, which I did. And he says, but if I'd have been in office, he says, right now I wouldn't be running for another term. He says, I'd be preparing to step down. And so if he gets in for 4 more years, that's it. 4 more years. All he's going to do is groom, hopefully, his vice president to take the next election after that. But there you go. We have a republic. They can't even keep the language straight. Yeah, true, Susie Q. And so that's how I see that. So, yeah, Matthew Sainsbury, the January 6th, the J6 event, played a lot on the media as well. Yeah, that's all they got. They want to try to link that to a coup. If that was a coup attempt by former President Donald Trump, the weakest coup attempt in the history of mankind. Oh, we're going to do this without weapons. We're just going to yell a lot and break some windows. There wasn't even graffiti sprayed on any of the statuary or paintings or anything damaged other than some windows. And they carried the speaker's podium out of the church and set it up under the rotunda, I think. Just left it there. Somebody rifled Pelosi's office. But I don't know. So the J6 thing, to me, Matthew and Sarah and everybody else, you can comment on this too. I don't think the J6 thing was an attempted coup. It was about 150 to 200 rioters out of over 500,000 people who gathered to peacefully protest on the Capitol steps and in the blocks around the Capitol. There was over 500,000 people there. That all went home when Trump said, go home. And they went home peacefully, except for that 150 to 200 people that wanted to keep breaking windows and stuff like those are your extremists, like the guy who shot Trump yesterday. Only from the other side of the political spectrum, the other end. So J6 is it's a political manipulation. It's something meant to try to manipulate the weak-minded, because anybody who thinks through that whole process knows Trump was not trying to lead a coup. He was trying to protest an election, and he told everybody to be peaceful and then told them to go home. Go home. But man, the other side latched onto that, didn't they? They have tried to make that their platform, is that a vote for Trump is a vote for anti-democracy. Now, what bunch of B's and B, S's and S.
Do
Yeah,
you think
J6 was
that
4 years ago. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think that as far as, the events that were going on, events meaning the speeches and the rhetoric and the
Yeah.
riling up the crowd, do you think that Trump and the party should have taken a better gauge on, reading the atmosphere in the room? I mean, if they were saying, okay, it's fine to be excited about it, but to a point where it's basically going into a level of energetic frenzy. Should they have controlled that more?
Or are you talking about a specific event or in general?
I mean, in general, because they plan these things out in terms of who's going to talk first, what they're going to say, all this stuff, and if you're putting oil on a already raging fire, versus yes, it's good to have passions and be passionate about what you believe in, but I mean to the point of where things blown over in January 6th, where they were
Oh, sure.
breaking into places. So I mean, there has to be somebody had to been reading the room, quote unquote room, as it was.
I look at the videos, and I have several times over the last 3-4 years, of what Trump's speech was that day.
I mean,
He
not
wasn't-
only Trump's speech, it's Giuliani, it's whoever
Everybody
was
else,
that day.
right?
Yeah.
Around him. I likened it to what I used to hear in my seminary days and my early ministry days in the Baptist church. The stuff that turned me off of the Baptist church and made me start questioning my theological base, and did I want to remain in that? And I eventually exited it. But because I kept hearing people pump up, I am a Baptist first before I am anything. And I'm a Baptist because I believe in this. I'm a Baptist because I believe in that. I'm a Baptist because, and I'm like, is God asking anybody if they're a Baptist or not? Doesn't God have different criteria? And I would ask that question. You guys know me to a certain extent. Now, this is 40 years ago when all this started for me. But I would ask those questions, and I was not as, I'm becoming an old man, Sarah. So I'm like, you goddamn lefties. I've got that element to me. Get off my grass, element to me now because I'm getting older. But when I was a kid, I was still not quite as outspoken as I could have been, but I took risks. I stuck my neck out and said, wait, I got to ask this question. Why are we calling ourselves Baptists before we're calling ourselves biblical Christians? I said, isn't that what we should be excited about? Isn't that where our fire should be? And it turned me off of that. So I take that as an example and put that into politics. Don't tell me I should be excited to be a Republican, because I'm not a Republican, first of all. And I know many people still don't believe that. I vote Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm registered as a Republican because I'm going to vote Republican, but I'm something very different. I'm an independent. And I listen to all this rhetoric about the Republicans are this, the Republicans are, and I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what you believe is best for our country. And maybe the Republicans say, we're the only ones who care about what is best for our country. I don't agree with that. I think there are a lot of Democrats. Yes, there are even Democrats who want what's best for our country. And I think this is where you see people like Tulsi Gabbard, who left the Democrat Party because she wants what's best for her country. She's not a Republican, but she's not a Democrat anymore. I think we have to reconnoiter. Everybody does in these parties and say, what am I pumping out there? What am I pushing? I think all political party rhetoric, either side of the equation, is all targeted at mindless, non-thinking citizen. It's not targeted at critical thinkers. Although many of them are critical thinkers and involve critical thinkers, I find the rhetoric of the left right now to be less concerned about people thinking for themselves than the right. Because I think the right encourages that a little bit. Think through, look at the facts, the left doesn't want you doing that. They've been operating on things that they know aren't factual for years, since Trump left office, especially. And then they get caught in the lie, and what happens? Well, it's found out that it's a lie, and that they've been focusing on that lie. Challenge me, or I challenge you, anybody, not just you, Sarah. You're listening, and you can respond to all this in a second. I challenge anybody to pull something out of Trump's rhetoric or Trump's presentations that is a lie he has been operating on for the last 8 years. Then I challenge you to look at the left and find even major things they've been preaching for years have been debunked even very recently. Only when the Democrats themselves and the press themselves started, it was all since the debate, but just a little bit before that, but really strong after the debate, the whole leftist apparatus, the whole media that is complicit with the Democrats and the left by a ratio of 87%, pro-Democrat, pro-left, they're going to pump that news out there. And even they are starting to backtrack a little bit. And even they are starting to, Snopes and other organizations saying, no, that's not what Trump said. No, that's it. But this is what they've been capitalizing on for years. So what do you do with it? And I'm going to welcome Travis to the show. But Sarah, I posed that question to you, and then Travis, you can take it up if you heard what I was saying. Sarah, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, I would have to do digging and a lot of research just to even look into answer that question.
As Rush Limbaugh used to say, you don't have to think because I do the thinking for you. Here are my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. So, all right. Anyway,
but I think, there is one point that I want to make now, because
please do.
Now we're good. Now that this event has happened,
yes,
how Trump handles the convention is going to be the tipping point on whether he can get all these undecided independent voters on his side, and that will bring him over into the election, depending on how he performs there. So, I mean, if he is rational and looks at it in a cerebral and in a cerebral way and not get fired up about it, then he may win back some voters, because if he just goes off on a rant about it, in which he does have the right to be angry about it, but he is aiming to become a world leader, so he has to deal with that sort of stuff on a daily basis.
He already is a world leader. He's just a non-reelected one at this point.
Right. So in basis, so I mean, this event could be what shifts the election for him.
I think it already has to a degree. What do you think, Travis?
Well, first, I'd like to thank Sarah for encouraging my toxic urges to jump in earlier.
No
when you're like, hey, you're gonna jump in, and I was like, no, I'm too busy. I do got to say thank you guys for entertaining me while I was fixing a toilet, fixing a screen door, and I have now given in to my urges while I was supposed to fix a barbecue.
The mundane.
Yes. Barbecue.
Yeah, no,
that's sin.
now, meanwhile, we're also in the middle of absolute chaos, because within about the first 40 minutes of the news yesterday, we have a foster puppy that just showed up from Houston, Texas after the hurricane.
Wow.
And
beautiful
so
puppy too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. We're having I don't know, like we're speculative on it, because like they just recovered this puppy. Yeah, I can maybe send you a picture of it later through Scotty. But this young puppy, my husky and my pit bull both want to eat it right now.
Oh.
And so we're having a
Is it
tough
like
time.
severely traumatized?
No, it like the puppy's fine. It's my dogs, I think, don't want to be replaced.
Well, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
it's
it's that
like-
whole,
it's like
it's the
Sheriff
new kid on
Woody-
the block and asserting your
It's
dominance.
it's
and
like
all
Sheriff
that.
Woody and Buzz Lightyear showing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's a difficult transition, and so it was a pretty rough night fielding phone calls, dealing with the chaos, dealing with the puppy chaos, and then having to deal with all that this morning too. I didn't know if I would have enough time to come in and interject for a few minutes, but I figured I would try. So
Just another day at the Thorpe household.
exactly.
Other day.
So yeah, yesterday I would say I spent anywhere from 6 to 8 hours just analyzing the fuck out of this
My
from every
wife
which way from
would
Sunday.
have my head on a platter if I spent 6 to 8 hours on this.
This is par for the course in the Thorpe household, so everybody's pretty used to it. Okay, first off, when it happened, I just happened to be out in the back waiting for this puppy to get here, right? And I'm just smoking a cigarette and I'm thumbing through TikTok and I'm watching all my favorite thirst traps or whatever, right? And all of a sudden I come across a live from like MSNBC and I see them shoveling Trump off into the motorcade and I'm like, what the fuck just happened, right? So I take a couple screenshots of it, send it to a couple of my buddies over in Alphabet Soup, and I'm like, hey, what the hell's going on here? And they're like, what do you mean? And they didn't even know right away. Right. So we all start going, holy shit, trying to grab video. We're trying to analyze the shit out of this. And I spent majority of the night talking with buddies over in DOJ, DIA, and like a retired Capitol Police officer. Right. And we're trying to analyze the sound of the shots. We're trying to analyze where it came from. We're trying to analyze like the reactions of everything. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I don't want to try to speculate too much on things. It's one of the things that I really hate about
it's too
pundits.
early.
When everybody just jumps in, right? But here's what I will speak to is that it does look like an abysmal failure on Secret Service's part.
It does.
Right. And the reason that I say that is when we first saw the first video and we're looking at it, got a buddy that was able to rip the video real quick, make a 4-minute segment around the incident a couple seconds before, and then 3.5 minutes after, right? And we're kind of analyzing that. We're analyzing the sounds. There's probably about 15 of us that are all prior combat veterans, prior law enforcement, and we're listening to the sound of this, and we're all like, man, that kind of sounds like subsonic rounds, and it sounds like it's coming from a carbine, but it also sounds like it's a really small caliber round.
Yeah.
But then we started thinking, and it's like, well, duh, you're using, professional grade microphones from CNN, MSNBC, everything else. It's got noise dampening to it, right? Because you got the crowds, you got the
It
wind.
sounds like pop, pop, pop.
Right. And so that's where, it sounded like a smaller caliber round because of those noise dampening microphones.
People in the audience said they heard boom, boom, boom rather than
right.
pop.
So it took me about 2 hours of thumbing through TikTok, but I did find a video, and Scotty, I'll share it with you later today.
Please.
Where there was an audience member, live streaming on TikTok, and it went to his TikTok page and whatnot, and the sound quality is completely different on an iPhone than it is on a professional media grade microphone, right? And you can absolutely hear that this is coming from a carbine, right? So like I noticed a comment earlier where somebody is like, well, at least we can't blame it on an AR-15 this time. Well, yeah, you actually probably can. It does absolutely sound like it's being fired from a carbine. Now, so then I started counting the shots, and we started, okay, there's a lot of, rapid succession of shots. Well, of course, you got a shooter, you got like probably close to 800 firearms in the mix between all the law enforcement. So you're going to have an exchange volley that's going to happen. So we started looking at the camera footage from the guy in the crowd. I found another video that was on X for about 2 hours, and then it's been stripped down 3 times now. I got another buddy with CTU and NYPD that was able to capture that video. So now I still have that too. So I'll send it to you as well. But there was a person in the audience that was filming the sniper team up on the rooftop. And so I started watching, and you see the sniper team. He's looking, he's scanning. And then all of a sudden he stops, jerks up real tight, fires the first shot. The very first shot you hear came from Secret Service on the sniper team, which means they missed. The second shot is the one where Trump grabs his ear.
So
And
are you saying what I think you're saying?
I am not speculating. I'm just reporting fact.
All right, you're reporting
when
fact.
you take the two videos, you take the video from CNN and you take the video of the guy recording the Secret Service team up on the rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
The very first shot you hear, you see the Secret Service member pull the trigger, right? And so he fires, and he's aiming right at that rooftop where that shooter is.
Okay.
And so he fires, okay? And almost immediately after the second shot happens, when you go back to like the media video,
boom,
you hear the first
boom.
shot and Trump kind of flinches a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear the second shot and he grabs his ear, right? And goes down. Then there's a volley and exchange of rounds going for about 14 shots, right? So it was interesting because there's other citizen journalists that are out there in the crowd and interviews with like BBC and Al Jazeera and whatnot that I came across where, you know, you had crowd members saying that they spotted the shooter 5 minutes before the shooting.
I saw the guy with the red mega visor and the red.
He's one of five. He's one of five people that were interviewed on that.
He's like pointing. He says, "We're 5 minutes out of we're seeing the guy crawling across the roof with the rifle on his back."
Right.
And we're trying to get the police to look, there's a guy. And he said the police couldn't be bothered.
Right. And so, you know, they, for about roughly 5 minutes, are trying to get the attention of law enforcement, whatnot, which, you know, makes us wonder if that's why the sniper team was looking that direction in the first place, because they were suspecting that, you know, hey, there's a possible threat coming that way. You know, they kept saying that the guy was, you know, like low crawling, you know, they were using the term army crawling, but it's a low crawl. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing. I'm looking at the aftermath and the damage of this guy's body in some of the photos in the photographs.
I saw some photos of the.
So I ran that by a buddy of mine that was with CAG and Ranger Bat, and I was like, okay, dude, I mean, what does these wound channels look like to you? Because they don't look like it came from a 308 at 100 meters. And he 100% agrees. He said if the Secret Service sniper team hit him with their rifle, his head would have been canoed.
Right.
And so like, we're talking like that cranium wouldn't be there anymore. Right.
Yep.
So when you're looking at the battle damage and the aftermath of the shooter, he's got one bullet hole right above his temple. Mm-hmm. He's got another wound channel behind the ear back here underneath the lower mandible. And it looks like possibly a third, you know, shot up in the trap, but I think that's just blood splatter.
I saw these. I saw these photos.
Now his head is not canoed at all,
No.
which tells me that he was probably taken at about 25 meters with a 5.56, you know. And when you see the guys in camo that are over him, those are HST guys from the state patrol. So what I'm assuming is state police went and scaled that building, got behind him during that exchange, and they're the ones that put the guy down. So then I started talking to the retired Capitol Police guy, and we were both like absolutely shocked at the response of the Secret Service team on how unprofessional that was handled, right? So like, not only did you have like this Wi-Fi signal of shapes and sizes of people protecting the president, shielding him, right? Like you had that like 5'2" woman that was there, right? Trump is like fucking 6'5". Yeah. What are you doing? Guarding his groin? Like you're not going to be a good human shield, right?
Some of the pictures we saw that most people have seen are from the front of the podium. You've got all these Secret Service gathering around him, shielding him, but his whole front is open.
Yep.
You can still see his face.
Yep. And that is very concerning. So the next most concerning thing to us, well, I'd say it was the most concerning thing to us, is as you watched him get placed into that said motorcade, right? And the limo is doing this very slow 2-point turn to get out of there. That should have already been staged to zip the fuck out of there in a split second. But for some reason, they're hanging around for like 2 minutes doing the slow ass 2-point turn and then slow rolling out of there. What the fuck was that?
Something I noticed too was as they were putting him in the vehicle, Trump stood, the 6'5" Trump stood on he stepped up to get in and stood up straight and put his fist in the air again.
Right.
totally exposed up above the vehicle itself. The only one up there. And they, of course, pulled him back down and shoved him in the car.
There's a handful of other things that I'm not quite at liberty to discuss yet, but you know, there's somebody.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, there's another person that they're looking into right now.
Yeah,
and I would hope or assume that later that will become public knowledge.
Okay.
But
what kind of a person?
As in somebody that might have been orchestrating it.
Somebody we would recognize?
Yes.
I don't doubt that for a second.
The trained observer, because there was a lot of people speculating, and there's also a lot of social media directly implicating this individual as bizarre, right? To the trained observer, watch right behind him, watch the crowd's reaction. You'll see a man in a blue suit with a shirt and a hat. And then right before the shooting, you'll see a yellow scarf come out of his jacket pocket, almost as a windage indicator.
That's interesting. A signal?
So with that, I got a barbecue to fix.
Yeah. With that, I got a bolt now.
You guys enjoy. Yeah, I had to give in to the toxic feeling inside to go and spew some facts.
One question before you go.
Go ahead.
Do you think if any of that is the fact of the matter, I mean, as we're presenting it here, that will ever come out?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, it's what I will tell you is I think everybody does need to calm the fuck down.
Sure.
Okay. I would say that the comment that's coming up right now, the facts and circumstances it is reasonable for one to perceive that.
Yes.
Does that make that a fact? No. Right. It could be just incompetence, gross incompetence. You know, and you don't want to get into that realm of they did this. We know they did this when you don't know, but you assume your gut's telling you, your instincts are telling you, right? Like I get that. And I get that appeal that we have internally because we want to blame something. Right.
Exactly.
But if we're jumping, you're going to miss the cart, right? Like you gotta just wait. You got to observe from all angles. Don't always assume that the easiest answer is the answer, right? Because it's usually not. Okay.
Usually not.
I would caution everybody to subdue their passions. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't stoke the fires more. It's not going to help anything at this point.
Damn straight.
The good news is he's okay. Okay. That's the good news. The bad news is there's another citizen that died as a result of this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we're not focusing enough on that either. And I'm sure that family is just absolutely
I mentioned that at the
broken.
beginning. I don't even see the name of the woman who was
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah.
In news stories.
You know, that family has got to be absolutely broken because all anybody's talking about is Trump. And nobody's mentioning this other citizen that was killed in the bleachers, right? And so we need to be empathetic to that as well.
Yes.
Okay. Man, I'm dancing a razor blade here. What I will say is there are actions happening from the current administration that leads me to believe that they truly care.
Yes.
And they are taking action to try to protect him.
Good.
And that surprised me, but I'm happy to hear it.
I am
right?
too, because they've risen above the politics when they do that.
So that would indicate to me that this isn't either coming from them or it's a really good cover up. Right. Right. But I don't want to add fuel into any of these directions other than the fact that, you know, applaud what you should applaud. I will fact that they're taking action right now.
I believed this, as I said earlier, I believed the sincerity of Biden when he said he called Trump Donald instead of Trump
Right.
for the first time in years. He said Donald, and I think he expressed a sincere surprise and shock about all of this, and a sincere feeling that this needs to not happen in this country, no matter who you are.
And I will say, I will say before I jet off too, that the internet has not disappointed. The memes have been absolutely fucking gold. And I love the fact that there's a video now of 50 Cent performing on stage with a album cover of his Many Men, behind him with Trump's face on 50 Cent's body.
Nice.
It's being embraced, and like the whole community is saying that this is Trump's new theme song was Many Men, which is fucking hilarious, right?
By the way, Matthew Garvin, you are correct. I brought that up a little earlier.
Yeah,
that this is the kind of rhetoric that people are saying may have led the insane nutcases to do what this guy did yesterday.
When you guys were discussing that earlier, I started typing away on my phone, I have fingers on the keyboard there, but I was typing away on the phone in the YouTube chat, and I was like, no. And I deleted the whole thing because it was going to be too long of a diatribe, right?
I got to call in.
But yeah, well, and one of the things that I wanted to discuss on that is, it's about perspective and lens too, right? So when January 6th happened, right? You had the Democratic Party and all them, like Trump incited January 6th. He incited this, he incited that, and they riled up their fucking base. And what did we get from that? Right. Yep. Okay. So let's apply the same type of intellectual honesty to this scenario too.
Yes.
Okay. So you can either be side, oh, they incited him. They incited this guy to shoot. They incited, and you can do that and still be intellectually honest. But at the same time, if you're angry that they were inciting this kind of shit, you should not do it to them for this, right? Because just like when you get angry that they were saying he was inciting Trump or that Trump was inciting everybody in January 6th, and you're like, there's no way he incited
Brother, it's the thing that I've insisted on many, many times. We need to boil this down to the most simple common denominator. What were we told when we were kids? 2 wrongs don't make a right. And
Correct.
So I said, if you disagree that the other side is doing blank, then you shouldn't engage in the same kind of activity, which you are doing, no matter fill in the blanks, because it's
right. Well, and to that point, Travis, I wanted to ask you this before you jet.
Sure.
I was on a 3-hour live stream last night afterwards, and we were speculating as much as we could with the information that was available. And your point about being intellectually honest about what you're seeing and what you're thinking about it is a really critical point that people need to think about. But just from an observational perspective, this was certainly not something that the people on the left and that ideological thought bubble, this is to me at a minimum a second earthquake within their ideology over the last few weeks. First was the debate, and now this. And the fracturing that the debate issue caused within that groupthink has just been spilling out and been highly entertaining across all of the interweb, because these people are not only individually but collectively losing their inclusive shit because they're now fighting amongst themselves. But I think that not only did they suffer yet another blow, I mean, the martyrism, that the symbolism and the meme machines that are just cranked into 10th gear have just been iconic. One of the best ones I've seen is Trump being shown as Neo and just laying back and the bullets flying by, right? And I'm looking at that going, okay, well, aside from Trump getting up and pumping his fist and just that iconic image itself, that's going to live in infamy, and the people are going to work it in 20 ways to Sunday.
Trump that you'll be looking at.
I think that's going to be a Time magazine cover.
I think the one thing, if I was to take everything that I've said and boil it down to the most important fact for people to analyze, okay, it was that from just taking those 2 videos of watching the sniper team and what happened at the podium, and you overlay those 2, you hear first shot and compare the 2 on first shot, right? First shot, Trump goes, what? Right? He's like, what the fuck was that? Right? Second shot, he grabs his ear.
Yep.
You watch the sniper team. First shot is the sniper team. Second shot, Trump gets hit in the ear. Right? Now, that tells us that they obviously didn't shoot the shooter on that first shot. Right?
They missed.
And so they missed. Right? And again, when we look at the battle damage,
that's why the shooter
if the sniper team would have hit him, his fucking head would have been canoed.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the overlay of the map on what happened, right, the shooter's up here, right, the sniper team's up somewhere about right here on a building. They're both on rooftops. Okay. Now, if the sniper team would have hit him, it would have hit him right about here, here, here. His entry wounds are right here
Up on the side, right?
in here, which tells us he was shot from the rear. And then what do you see standing over him but the HST unit from the state police? The state police is the one that took him out. Secret Service didn't take him out, and there was a lot of exchange of fire. And then you have that really delayed 2-point turn exit that was going out. They were asleep at the wheel. They were not doing a great job.
One of the interesting speculations that I wanted to toss into your cranium there, Travis, is that this was a black hat op that was found out by the white hats, and they leveraged it for their benefit. What are your thoughts there?
I don't want to speculate on that because that's too deep into the realm of, like, A, it's way too early. B, there's not enough evidence to back any of that up other than speculation and gut feelings. Right.
Right.
And once you start putting your money behind something like that, we have a duty of integrity to stand behind that. Right. And if you don't,
I wouldn't stand behind it. I would certainly put it out there for, ripe conversation and speculation, because a lot of the things you pointed out, and I've heard this from a number of people, that it seemed as though there was some kind of failure within the Secret Service operation and the way in which they conducted themselves, not only from the guy being able to get there and get into position, but the iconic shots. Some of that stuff, you look at it and you go, well, if you were going to script a movie scene, having camera angles and being able to capture those images were literally the best choreographed kind of positioning and imagery you could have wanted.
It is beyond.
It kind of gives lens to, well, how much of that was staged? And I don't think any of it. I'm just saying that's a possibility.
Like the thing is, like, we know Trump is a showman, right? We know that he is a very boisterous showman. You're not going to convince him to take a fucking grazed bullet within a fraction of a cunt hair next to his fucking dome. It's not going to happen, right? Like one of the
maybe that shot was lucky. They knew it was coming and they didn't get there in time, but that doesn't preclude the fact that they were aware of it and they were planning on trying to leverage this, and they were expecting to get in front of it before it actually happened.
Into a lot of speculative assumption making. As opposed to
that's all we've got right now.
Right. And that's where I try to tell people to kind of calm down, wait for some of the facts to start coming out, because then you got more to chew on. But at the same time, like, one of the things that, my group of peers hates about me is I don't use Occam's razor when I analyze things. Right. I joke about it and I say I use the Alex Jones approach. Right. And they get so
we're all globalists.
Yeah, right. Well, and so, like, I had a discussion with one of my old peers when I was a Junction City police officer in Kansas, right? He was a drug task force detective, and we were on the phone and we were talking about some crazy things. And he was like, man, I feel like a conspiracy theorist. And I started laughing. I was like, detective, you understand that that's literally what your job is, right? Your job is to take a piece of information. You're trying to hunt down the facts on it. You're trying to prove or disprove things. And when you can't disprove something, you have a reasonable suspicion that something's going on, right? And I said, so when you're analyzing things, you do need both ways. You need somebody that's looking at things for Occam's razor, because, you need fast, effective violence of action to move on something quick, right? Sorry, my camera's, there we go. So you need that quick violence of action on things to prevent things from happening quick, right? So that's where you need the Occam razor type people in intelligence analyst, right? However, the other type of intelligence analyst you need is somebody that uses the Alex Jones approach. right? That every scenario, I don't care if it's like who took the last taco at supper, right? The very first answer that should come out of your mouth as the analyst is, it's the fucking reptilians, you know? You know, and you work your way down towards Occam's razor, right? And when you do that, right, it's easy to disprove it's not the reptilians. It's easy to disprove that it's not the Illuminati. It's easy to disprove that it wasn't some ancient time traveler coming from Egypt, right?
But your point is you have to. Your point is you got to put all that on the table,
right?
Regardless of the craziness of it, because we've got enough historical track record where, you know what, the crazy shit actually ended up being the truth, and you have to be able to put that on the table for considerate observation and analysis.
And so you cast the widest net possible and you start disproving as much as you can. And when you can't disprove something, that's when you have reasonable suspicion. Okay. That's when you continue to dig on that. And in you know, a good detective, a good investigator will continue to pull on that fucking thread until you can't get anything anymore. Right.
That's right.
And so like, that's what I would encourage, you know, your listeners and everybody else involved, that when we're analyzing these things, it's okay to cast that giant web of speculation. Right. But, you know, don't pull on every thread as it's a fact while you're doing that. Right.
That's it.
Take a good inquisitive mind about it. Right. Pull on those threads and try to disprove it. And if you can't disprove it, that gives you reasonable suspicion to believe. Right.
There you go. And we got to leave this on that because, frankly, Raini and I are supposed to be going somewhere already. And so I got to get out of here. And, Professor, I'm not giving you much time to say anything other than what you've already said.
I demand equal time.
And, Travis, I appreciate your input. And, Sarah, you're still sitting there.
Yep.
We haven't heard much from you, but
well, I was gonna hop in, but y'all got into it. So.
And I have got to go. We've got a show we're supposed to go to, and so I got to get off of here. Sarah, thank you for being here. Professor, thank you for being here. Travis, thank you for being here. You got to do this more often.
Do you feel better,
talk
Travis?
about this more.
Thank you.
Tomorrow night, as more things develop. So thank you three for being here. I appreciate it. I'm gonna get rid of you all right now and say my goodbyes. Have a good Sunday.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right, everybody. We got to get out of here because I got to go. And this show is over. If I was on a network, I'd have been yanked already 6 minutes ago. So all of you, you have a great Sunday, the great rest of your day. Make it a good one. Make it count for something, or just relax and have a great time. Live long and prosper.